Now, coming to the scope, what exactly covered under morphology? What are the scopes? What are the important part that we need to understand or we need to know? The first one is inflectional morphology. So, inflectional morphology is the study of how affixes or sometimes internal modifications are used to mark grammatical distinctions such as tense, number, case, aspect, person, gender, or agreement without changing the core lexical meaning or word class. So we know the scope of morphology. In inflectional, we do not change the grammatical category, but we do mark grammatical distinctions such as tense, number, case, aspect, person, gender, or agreement without changing the core lexical meaning or word class. So now we can look at the characteristics of inflectional morphology. No change in lexical category. So what do we mean by no change in lexical category or word category? So inflection does not convert a noun to a verb or an adjective to a noun. They do not change the grammatical category. The examples I have given. If you look at this play, play is a verb, remain a verb when we say plays. Even after adding s, it remain verb. It does not change its grammatical category. So it also called it there is no change in lexical category. So this is basically part of the inflectional morphology. The second one in this category is purely grammatical meaning to add. To add affix, affix is the process generally just to make you understand which affix is the process where we can use prefix, suffix and infix. So all these three together terms known as affix conveys grammatical information. For example, s for the third person singular in English rather than lexical meaning. So lexical meaning has to get changed, not going to change, rather than the s making it a third person singular in English language. Whereas obligatory in many contexts, what does we mean by obligatory? Many languages require inflectional marking to satisfy syntactic agreement, like subject verb agreement. Subject means if subject is masculine singular, so verb will accordingly agree with that subject. So this is called subject verb agreement. Closed set of affixes. The inflectional affixes are relatively limited in number compared to derivational affixes. So inflectional affixes are very limited because it does not change the grammatical category, whereas derivational affixes which does change the grammatical category, and new inflections are seldom invented. Sometimes we invent to make or to add something new to make some changes. Non-altering of stem meaning. The stem's basic concept remain intact. The inflection only adjusts its grammatical frame. So the root part or the stem part or for base, it remains unchanged. For example, if you can look at the English, the word play having plays as third person singular present. When we say played, it referring to the past tense. When we say playing, is referring to the progressive with aspect. So these inflections signal tense or aspect, but play remains a verb all the time. So if you look at singular present, then you can see past, then you can see progressive aspect. These all are getting changed, but the play remain as it is as verb in all its context. Now, beyond linguistics, we say cross linguistics means beyond languages. If we look at the Latin, like in linguistics, there are one more thing I would like to make it clear. To understand the concept in linguistics, we always use the examples which are available in every category, in every language. So we take the help of to understand the concept from different sources. So just to give you an idea so that once you understand the concept, you can easily apply to the language that we are learning, which is focusing here in Hindi Urdu morphology. So if you look at this word, Latin rosa or rosae, that one is singular nominative to plural nominative. Latin inflects noun for number and case, and that includes nominative, accusative, genitive, dative, and ablative. In Hindi Urdu, if you look at ladka becomes ladke, then kitab becomes kitabein, like boy becomes boys and book becomes books. Urdu Hindi marks plural and sometimes gender via suffixal inflection. Verb tense aspect, for example, मैं जा रहा हूँ. For masculine singular, it is मैं जा रहा हूँ. If you look at the feminine singular, मैं जा रही हूँ. So these are getting changed depending upon the number and gender of the person. Coming to the derivational aspect of the morphology, so derivational morphology concerns the creation of new lexical item. So learner's lexical item is a basically vocabulary item or word, we can say in simple form. So in linguistically, we call it lexical items through affixation, and that affixation, as I said earlier, that include prefix, suffix, infix, and here they have also named circumfixes that often change word class or meaning. So word class, if it is noun, it can become verb. If it is verb, it can become adjective. So these changes that called the word class change. Derivation expands the lexicon and produces semantic innovation. Semantic innovation means semantic, as I said earlier, we have seen that a study of meaning. So it is an innovation in the meaning as well. If you look at the characteristics of derivational morphology, the first thing that possible change in the parts of a speech. So that when we say change the word class, here you can see the clear example, like teach is the verb, teacher becomes noun. So decide is the verb, decision becomes noun. A verb becomes noun. So these kind of changes are parts of a speech in derivational morphology, word class change. If you look at semantic shift, that semantic shift or semantic nuances, the derived word adds a shade of meaning. For example, friend becomes friendship, dost like dosti, khush is like happiness, khushi, and happy becomes happiness in English. Productivity and limitation. Some derivational affixes are highly productive, however, some are limited in its production. If you look at English ness, ness suffix or er suffix, whereas other are fixed. For example, th is very rare even in English. So when we say warmth, only then we use th, but ness and er is very common, like happiness, calmness, and er like worker, player, and etc. And so many examples we can find here for this ness and er. Then we have optional rather than obligatory. Derivation is not required by syntax, it is a lexical process. So derivation is part of the lexical process where the word class getting changed. If you look at the examples in Urdu Hindi, if you look at happy, khush become khushi, acha becomes achai, goodness, then padhna become padhai, like a study reading. These are all is like suffix kind of thing, adding a and e at the end. Then if you look at the prefixal derivation, pre means before. Anything can be added before the word, before the lexical item, that is called prefix. And prefixal examples are bad in bad kismat, be in beiman, bad kismat is fortune, kismat is fortune, bad kismat is unlucky. Iman is faithful, be-iman is dishonest, khub is good, khubsurat is beautiful, ilm is knowledge, alim is a scholar, sher is poetry, shairi is poetic art. As Plague, a very well-known scholar, observes, derivational morphology play a crucial role for lexical expansion and semantic enrichment. In dynamic linguistic environment, speakers coin new derivative forms. For example, at the time demands, we always as a linguist create new terminology, downloadable, blogger are new terms that are used after invention of computer and new technology to meet communicative and conceptual need in a specific domain. Now, the next one is compounding. Compounding is a process in which two or more free morphemes, independent words, are combined to form a new lexical item or new word. The compound carries a unified meaning. Even the two free forms, two independent morphemes can be combined, but they convey a unified meaning, often predictable from its parts, but sometimes idiomatic. For example, if you look at the English example, which are very common, blackboard. Black is a separate word, board is a separate word, free form, toothpaste, tooth and paste. Like cheese board, cheese and board, pick pocket, like pick and pocket. So these two independent forms can combine and convey a unified meaning as part of the compounding. So compounding is conveyed through. Then if you look at the different types of compounds, it is said endocentric compounds. The compound denotes a subtype of head. For example, blackboard, a kind of board, referring to the main single idea. Doorbell, a kind of bell which is placed on the door. Then exocentric compounds, the meaning does not align with any one lexical head. So it could completely convey different meaning. When we say pickpocket, someone who pickpockets, referring to, and then a scarecrow, not a kind of crow. So it says meaning does not align with any one lexical head. It combination conveying sense in exocentric compounds. Then we have coordinate compounds. It also known as cooperative compounds. Both parts contribute equally. Where like both the parts when we combine make compound contribute equally in terms of meaning, like bittersweet and singer or songwriter. Then we have appositional compounds. Both elements refer to the same referent. For example, very common in English, actor, director, Asia Pacific, and many more examples you learner can find in the books or many other places. In Hindi Urdu, it is also we have plenty of examples when we say Rajpat, like rule, and Pat, like referring to monarchy. Rail Gadi, train carrier or train carriage, like Man Mohan, it is not name, Man is referring to heart, and Mohan is charming, Man Mohan. Then Ankh Michauli, like eye and hiding, referring to hide and seek. So these are the compound for conveying different meanings. There are other different word formation processes. There are plenty. We'll be talking at least few of the important word formation process here. As we know, morphology also examines a range of minor word formation processes that contribute to the dynamic expansion of a language vocabulary. These processes reflect the creativity and adaptability of speakers in forming new lexical items to meet communicative needs. So these new lexical items we need to communicate our feelings, as I said earlier, our emotions, or the idea we conceive in our mind. When we want to convey, we need some new, or we can form new lexical items to convey. Some of the most notable processes that include, the first one in this category is blending. Blending involves combining parts of two or more words to create a new word, typically by merging the beginning of one word with the end of another. The resulting form often preserves aspects of the original meaning. So if you look at this example of English, a smoke is used for a smoke plus fog. and we call smoke. So then we have brunch, referring to from breakfast and lunch, we call it brunch. Basically, what happens here? By merging the beginning of one word with the end of another, we form this blending. Hindi Urdu not have much examples, but if you look at this Hinglish, the word referring to Hindi and English, which is used to describe a mix of the two languages. These blends are particularly common in media, advertising, and technology, where concise and catchy terms are valued. You know, these days, like with the invention of technology, technological aspect, advancement of digital media, like you can see different kinds of catchy ads at different places. You can find these kinds of word like blending in very much in your advertisement, language of advertisement. The next in the series is clipping. Clipping is the process of shortening a longer word without changing its meaning or grammatical category. So here we are going to shorten this. Unlike blending, clipping does not involve combining words but simply truncating them, like truncating them, shortening them. For example, if you look at English example, ad is used for advertisement. Lab is used for laboratory, like very commonly used example. In Hindi Urdu, we can say bus from omnibus, widely used as a full word today. So clipping reflects a speaker's tendency towards economy of expressions. So economy expressions, we can work with the minimum use of the combination of sounds which convey the meaning in a very economical way, in a shortest way. Then we have acronyms and abbreviations. Acronyms are words formed from the initial letters of a series of words and pronounced as a single term. So here the acronyms with all these letters we pronounce as a single term, whereas abbreviation are pronounced letter by letter. Acronyms examples used like NATO, we pronounce like a word or term, but basically NATO refers to North Atlantic Treaty Organization. UNESCO, we are pronouncing like a term or word, which refers to United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Abbreviation examples like FBI, we cannot pronounce like a term. We have to clearly spell out FBI, referring to Federal Bureau of Investigation, ATM, like automated teller machine. In Hindi Urdu context, acronyms like ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, and abbreviation like NCERT, we cannot pronounce like a term, which refers to National Council of Educational Research and Training, that function similarly. So these acronym and abbreviations, these basic differences, like we in acronyms we pronounce like a term or word, but where is the abbreviation we have to pronounce every letter separately, referring to different or organization or description. Next is reduplication. Reduplication is very common in Hindi Urdu. Reduplication by the term re means again and again, means reduplication is the repetition of a word or part of a word to create a new meaning, often for emphasis, plurality, or distributive sense. This process is especially productive in South Asian languages. For example, in Hindi Urdu, ghar, ghar, or chai, why. Here it is referring to the ghar is called as total reduplication or complete reduplication, whereas chai, why referring to like partial reduplication. So this is very common. The very common form of this reduplication process in Hindi and Urdu, like chalte chalte, daurte daurte, khate khate, These are all examples of complete reduplication. Chai vai, chai sai, nasta vasta, khana wana, all are partial reduplication, very, very common in South Asian languages. English example, not very much common, but still we can find, like when we say bye bye, zigzag, though less frequent compared to South Asian languages. So reduplication is very common, and you can find, learners can find plenty of examples in everyday uses. Then we have back formation. Back formation occurs when a new word is created by removing an affix. And we know affix is the process through which we add prefix and suffixes, real or perceived, from an existing word, typically resulting in a change of grammatical category. For example, edit from editor, then burgle from burglar. But however, example in Hindi Urdu is less common but occasionally seen in modern slang adapt